Indeed, Naveen Jindal is our newsmaker tonight. Mr. Jindal, last week, CNN and IBN had reported on the basis of these documents that you had got a huge coal block in Orissa for coal to liquefaction project. Was there a violation of norms in this entire allocation of this coal block, Mr. Jindal?
No, absolutely not. Government of India had advertised widely that they want to, for strategic energy requirements of the country, that they want to set up a coal to liquid project. Basically, how to convert coal into petrol, to diesel, so that we are not just dependent on importing our fuel. We are produce diesel and petrol from coal. Because if we use coal for only generation of power, because power we can use hydroelectric power, solar, wind, nuclear, but we cannot produce petrol and diesel from it. So that's why Government of India in its wisdom thought that we must have a project where we produce petrol and diesel from coal.
It's interesting, Jindal, that you say that the government in its wisdom decided to allot these blocks to you and to the other private player, the Tatas. But what about the fact that these documents also show that these 28 companies you're talking about, quite a few of them were government's own public sector undertakings? What was it about Naveen Jindal? What was it about your company that you all were given this block, but the government's own PSUs were asked to go all the way to Mozambique?
That is a question that you have to ask them. Okay, but what I can say is we were the only two companies who had experience of coal mining, who have successfully implemented these projects, who are already active in those areas. We are already there. We are already in that region, in that district, in Angul district of Odisha, and successfully implementing the project. So if you see our track record, I'm sure you'll find that we have always performed better than what we said.
You are outrightly denying this charge then, Mr. Jindal. That's been leveled against you and many of your other colleagues in the industry, that you all were simply squatting all these coal blocks which are allotted to you to make windfall gains at a later stage?
Absolutely not. If you're talking about any gain, the gain is not just by allocating a coal block to you. Gain would accrue if you actually started to mine it, and that's not easy to do. Let me tell you, and a lot of your viewers who have never been to a coal mine, they should go and visit. How difficult it is to start a new coal mines. Most of these coal mines, okay, firstly, everyone must realize which blocks have been given to the private sector. These are those blocks which Coal India had absolutely no plans of mining for the next maybe 10-15 years.
I'm sorry to interrupt you again, Mr. Jindal, because again I'm looking at these letters which have been written by Coal India Limited to the government authorities, to the coal ministry, asking for permissions to be allotted these coal blocks in India. Please answer this question, sir. Why is it that Coal India was writing letters to the government, but all their recommendations, all their letters were overlooked in your favor?
Whatever letters the Coal India has written, that these are the blocks that we want, because these are our adjoining blocks and these blocks should not be given to anybody. Government has not given those blocks to anybody. So those blocks are still there for Coal India to mine from them.
Let me ask you then a direct question, Mr. Jindal. Who in the government, according to you, was really responsible for the allotment of this coal block to you? Is it the screening committee that was responsible, or was it the interministerial panel which decided that this block should be given to you in the month of February 2009?
Okay, I mean that same inter-ministerial group in this case was a screening committee. I mean, screening committee or inter-ministerial group, these are names, right? I mean, there were people from all the relevant ministries who were on this, and in this even the planning commission was involved in some way, and they have seen the presentation from all the companies. They would have obviously realized, seeing our capabilities, our past track record, because how do you tell somebody is going to do well in the future?
So, Mr. Jindal, the reason why I'm asking you yourself to tell us who you thought was the agency in the government that had decided to give this block to you is because we also have in our possession the minutes of this inter-ministerial panel meeting which had taken place in the month of March 2011. Now, this meeting makes a very, very clear-cut case that the decision of allotting this coal to liquefaction project to you was neither taken by the screening committee nor by the interministerial panel. It was on the contrary taken by a special committee which was chaired by the planning commission chairman. May I ask you, sir, what is it about Naveen Jindal that on one hand, this decision to allot you this block is taken at a time when the Prime Minister himself is directly in charge of the coal ministry And that decision is implemented by the chairperson of the Planning Commission.
All right. I mean, I can't say anything for the Prime Minister, but I mean, whatever I can say about the credentials of our company, and the credentials of our company are impeccable. And I'm sure if you, I mean, you have not seen which were the other companies.
But won't this charge then be leveled against you, Naveen Jindal, that you were simply misusing your position as a Congress MP?
No, these coal blocks have not been given to a member of parliament. These coal blocks have been given to company which has an excellent track record of implementing projects.
Okay, so if these coal blocks, the one coal block that we were talking about was given not to Naveen Jindal, the Congress MP, but to Naveen Jindal, the industrialist, well, let me then draw your attention to the other contentious deal that you have also been associated with, the Mahanandi Coal Field Limited deal. These documents which we have with us show a consortium of 3 companies, all belonging to your family: JSW Steel, JS Jindal Thermal Power, and Jindal Stainless Steel. All these 3 companies of your family had tied up with government-owned firm to get a combined block, which had already been awarded to someone else. Again, was this not a case of favoritism, sir, which was being played in your favor? Were government's agencies simply not working under your thumb, Mr. Jindal?
Firstly, I am not involved in the running of either JSW or Jindal Steel or Jindal Thermal. Okay, all these companies are separate companies. And not only these, there are so many companies have, this was idea of the secretary at that time, that since there are not enough blocks to be given individually to different companies, let us get the companies together and at least part of their demands would be met. So this would be one of the efforts. So many people have been given blocks jointly.
Okay, you know, you've answered all the specific questions that we have raised about specific deals that you or your companies have been associated with. But let me come to the larger question then. In light of the controversy that has been generated post the CAG review, do you believe, sir, that the time has now come to relook perhaps at the entire process of coal block allocation in our country?
This is a very good question that you ask about the allocation process. Okay, allocation process, we can compare one allocation process to the allocation process of other countries, because it's not the companies who do it, it is the different governments. You tell me of any country, talk the whole of Americas, Canada, North America, South America, have they ever auctioned a coal block? No. Talk about the whole of Africa, have they ever auctioned a coal block? No. Australia, Indonesia. So all these countries are extremely happy if you just agree and you're ready to invest in coal mines itself, and you're willing to take the and sell it commercially. But in India, we said no, we are not going to allow, because the MMDR Act and the Coal Nationalization Act 1973 does not allow for commercial mining.
But you know, Mr. Jindal, the opposition parties are saying that actually Naveen Jindal has been the biggest beneficiary of coal block allocation in the UPA stint, simply because you have been hand in gloves with the powers in the government, you have misused your position as a Congress MP, and most significantly, they allege that you have paid money to Congress's managers to get all these coal blocks. That Naveen Jindal was nothing else but the election fund manager for the Congress party. How do you respond to these allegations being leveled by the opposition parties?
That's most unfortunate, but what can you expect from opposition parties in leveling these baseless charges? So I say, prove these charges. And secondly, I entered politics in 2004. Before that also, our companies were allocated 4 coal blocks, and we have performed very well in those blocks.
Okay, Mr. Jindal, my final question to you. I see that you always wear the national flag on your chest. As someone who fought for the right to hoist the national flag, can you promise all our viewers tonight that all your dealings in this entire coal business have been entirely above board, sir?
Okay, I can say that our track record, compared to, if you can compare our track record, is extremely good. We have implemented these projects, extremely well, and it is very challenging to work these mines. It's very challenging to have these projects in these areas, these backward areas of our country. So I think that unnecessary controversies, unnecessary politics over the economy of the country, we should not be playing with the economy of the country, because it is going to hurt everyone's interest. We in our company work in a very, very professional manner, and I as an Indian, as a person, as a young person, I try to do things the best way I know how. And how the end will bring me out is for all of us to see.
Okay, Naveen Jindal, thanks so much for joining us and giving us that very, very strong defense in your favor. Well, there you have it.